The ancient Roman Empire and its people, the Romans, were among the most powerful civilizations in history, conquering much of the known world. Among their many legends, the story of Romulus and Remus stands out. They are said to be the founders of Rome, raised by a she-wolf. While this tale is well known, today I will take you beyond it. In this video, I will explore the biblical roots of the ancient Romans and other European peoples. Tracing their ancestry through ancient Jewish and Semitic traditions, you will discover how they connect to a key biblical figure from Noah's lineage. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Join this new episode of our series, where we uncover the origins of one of history's most fascinating civilizations, the Romans. The Roman Empire, known in Latin as Imperium Romanum, represents the era following the Roman Republic. During this period, Rome became a dominant political and military force, expanding its rule over vast lands around the Mediterranean. These territories included parts of Europe, North Africa, and Western Asia. The empire was led by emperors, starting with Caesar Augustus, the first Roman emperor. From the beginning of Augustus's reign to the period of military anarchy in the 3rd century, the empire functioned under a system called the Principate, where Italy served as the heart of the Roman provinces, and Rome itself was the symbolic and central capital of the empire. Over time, power was divided among multiple rulers, leading to the formation of the Western and Eastern Roman empires. Despite this split, Rome remained the official capital until 476 AD, when the Western Roman Empire lost its political influence after the fall of Ravenna, the western capital, to Germanic invaders. One of the most defining moments in Roman history was the adoption of Christianity as the state religion in 380 AD. This transformation reshaped Roman society and governance, making Christianity a key unifying force during a time of change and uncertainty. The fall of the Western Roman Empire, marked by the removal of the last emperor in 476 AD, signified the end of the Classical Age and the start of the Middle Ages. The shift of imperial power to Constantinople allowed the Eastern Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire, to survive for another 1,000 years, preserving Roman traditions while developing its own distinct culture. The Roman Empire, in all its complexity, left a lasting impact on the world. Its influence can still be seen in law, government, architecture, language, and religion, shaping Western civilization for centuries. The transition from the classical world to the Middle Ages, marked by Rome's decline, remains one of the most significant turning points in history, highlighting both the achievements and the struggles of one of the greatest empires of all time. The Bible introduces us to several key ancestors of humanity after the Great Flood, focusing on how the world was repopulated through Noah's descendants. As many people know, Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Japheth is believed to be the ancestor of many important ethnic and cultural groups. He is considered the forefather of European, Eurasian, and Asian peoples. Among Japheth's descendants, Ashkenaz is identified as the ancestor of the Germanic barbarians, Vikings, and ancient Slavs, along with other significant groups. Another descendant, Japheth, is known as the patriarch of the Celtic peoples, including all ancient Celtic tribes. Additionally, Togarma is mentioned as the forefather of Asian peoples, including the Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, and other key groups from that region. This biblical account not only traces the beginnings of different civilizations, but also shows the diversity and complexity of human connections throughout history. It highlights how these groups shape the cultures and traditions we recognize today. In the book of Genesis 10:2, the sons and descendants of Japheth are listed, and they are recognized as the forefathers of European peoples. These include Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. One particularly interesting detail about Tiras, one of Japheth's sons, is the meaning of his name, which can be translated as vintner, a wine producer. This connection becomes even more intriguing when we look at the ancient Romans and Latins, who lived in the region now known as Italy. Wine and grape production was central to their culture and way of life. It is no coincidence that even today, Italy is famous worldwide for its high-quality wines, considered some of the best in the world. Because of this, Tiras is often identified as the ancestral patriarch of the ancient Italians, reinforcing the link between the biblical account and cultural traditions that continue to shape our world. However, while Tiras is regarded as the ancestor of the ancient Italians, the ethnic background of the Romans and the Italic people was much more complex. The Romans did not descend solely from Tiras, but from a diverse mix of tribes and peoples who contributed to the formation of their genetics and culture. The Italic peoples, who formed the foundation of Roman civilization, included the Latins, Etruscans, and other local tribes. Over time, the Italian peninsula was shaped by the influence of many different groups, including the Phoenicians, Greeks, Celts, Goths, Lombards, Byzantines, Franks, Normans, and Suebi. This mix of cultures played a major role in shaping both the genetics and traditions of the ancient Romans, and eventually modern Italians. While the Romans originally descended from Tiras, like many ancient civilizations, they gradually mixed with other European peoples who were also descendants of Japheth. For example, the Celts and Germanic tribes had a strong impact on Rome, as did Greek groups, who are biblically recognized as the descendants of Javan, another son of Japheth. Javan is considered the forefather of all Greek peoples, and because of Rome's interactions with Greek culture, the Romans also carried this genetic and cultural heritage. An interesting and less commonly known fact about the origins of Italians is that, aside from European influences, they also inherited significant genetic traits from the ancient Phoenicians, Cretan Greeks, and other peoples of the Aegean Sea. This connection with the Phoenicians, along with the Philistines, who were descendants of Ham, demonstrates the deep cultural and genetic blending among Mediterranean civilizations. The Phoenicians, known for their seafaring and trade expertise, had a strong impact on the region. One of their most lasting contributions was their influence on the alphabet. Both the Greek and Latin writing systems, which became essential to Roman civilization, were adapted from the ancient Phoenician alphabet. This shows the historical link between the Phoenicians and the early Greeks and Romans. The Latin language, spoken by the ancient Romans, later evolved into the foundation of several modern Romance languages, including Italian, French, Portuguese, Spanish, and Castilian. These languages share common roots in the Indo-European family, along with vocabulary and structures shaped by cultural and trade interactions with various peoples, including the Phoenicians. The blending of genetics and cultures in Italy highlights how the ancient Romans were influenced by interactions with many different groups. This diversity created a legacy that continues to be seen in modern languages, traditions, and cultural practices. From an ethnic perspective, the appearance of ancient Romans reflected the diversity of a people who constantly interacted with other civilizations. Most Romans had dark hair, fair skin, and brown eyes, typical features among European descendants of Japheth. However, their skin tone was generally more Mediterranean, lighter than that of Middle Eastern or North African peoples, but darker than that of Nordic, Germanic, and Slavic groups. Despite this general Mediterranean appearance, the Romans had a range of physical traits. Some had brown hair, and a few even had blue eyes, showing genetic diversity due to intermarriage with other European and Mediterranean populations. Red-haired individuals were also not uncommon, with Emperor Nero often described as having red hair. Rome's expansion began soon after the founding of the Republic in the 6th century BC. However, for a long time, it remained limited to the Italian peninsula. It was not until the 3rd century BC that Rome grew into a vast empire, conquering territories across 3 continents and incorporating new peoples and cultures into its civilization. This expansion not only strengthened Rome as a major political and military force, but also brought together people from many different regions, increasing the diversity of its population. As a result, while the Romans remained primarily of European descent, their physical features and genetics were influenced by the various peoples integrated into the empire. This mix of cultures and backgrounds made Rome one of the most influential and multicultural civilizations of the ancient world. Long before the time of emperors, the Roman Republic was not a single unified nation like modern states. Instead, it was a network of independent cities, each with varying degrees of self-governance under the authority of the Roman Senate. Some territories were also governed as provinces under military commanders. Unlike later periods, Rome was not ruled by emperors but by annually elected officials, mainly the Roman consuls, who shared power with the Senate. The 1st century BC was a time of great political and military struggles, eventually leading to the rise of the Roman Empire. The authority of the consuls was based on a Roman legal concept called imperium, which means command, usually in a military sense. Sometimes, victorious consuls were given the honorary title of imperator, meaning commander, a term that later became associated with emperors. According to interpretations of the Book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar's vision of a statue symbolized the great empires that would follow the Neo-Babylonian Empire, also called the Chaldean Empire. The head of gold represented Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar. The chest and arms of silver symbolized the Medo-Persian Empire, which came after Babylon's fall. The belly and thighs of bronze represented the Greek Macedonian Empire, led by Alexander the Great. After Greek rule, the statue's legs of iron represented the Roman Empire, which many biblical scholars believe was prophesied in the Book of Daniel. Understanding this vision requires deep knowledge of genealogies, biblical languages such as Hebrew and Aramaic, and the symbolic meanings within the scriptures. The final part of the statue, the feet made of iron mixed with clay, is said to represent the last great empire, a coalition of 10 nations or superpowers in the period known as the End Times. Some traditions link this to the descendants of Tiras and other sons of Japheth, suggesting a continuation of ancient lineages into future global powers. Seeking wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is key to interpreting these prophecies. I hope you found this content insightful. May God bless you all, and see you soon.